Hi, I'm Carla Adams. I'll be reading from my book, Ancestral River, A Spiritual Journey for the Living and the Dead, Chapter 12, Generations. After holding their spirits' intentions for my descendants and ancestors one day, I realized how much I missed my younger son. He lived many hours away. I focused my attention and intention to connect with him. His warmth, the scent of his cologne, and the usual inflections of his voice were suddenly real. "Hi, Mom." His spirit was so close. I wanted a deep conversation to share the spiritual ideas I was learning, but only one thing mattered. "I love you." I said it 3 times. A few minutes later, he sent a text. "Hi, Mom. How are you?" I left a voicemail. Later, I held a tree near our house while thinking of him. My spirit traveled west. I entered his front door, and my thoughts called his name. He was in the garage. My phone beeped with his text. Weeks later, I felt overwhelmed all day. Several times I listened carefully within me, but couldn't find tension from overwhelming my body. It wasn't my emotion. That evening, he called. I had to see a doctor this week. One day, I awoke with anxiety that felt like my mother's. I called her. "Mom, are you okay?" She said, "I've been feeling really overwhelmed today. I have so much to do in the next few weeks, and I'm not as young as I used to be." I imagined a pie chart sliced in half for my parents, in quarters for my grandparents, in eighths for my great-grandparents, and so on, the number of ancestors in each generation growing larger as each individual ancestor's percentage within me grew smaller. Through DNA and spirit, the emotions, experiences, and wisdom of my ancestors were in me. I desired more connection with my ancestors in the oneness, and they desired connection with me, a magnetism of all the parts for the whole. Grandpa came from the oneness one morning. He said, "You asked Universal Spirit if the sun, moon, and stars work the way they were meant to work, and if they have the power they were meant to have. There's an ancestor I want you to meet. He knows things that you need to know." The next day I said to Universal Spirit, "How will I meet this ancient grandfather?" Intuition answered. In hypnosis, I could see and feel as a participant. During hypnosis, Grandpa met me in the oneness. I said, "I would love to meet this ancestor and learn what he knows. Is he in the oneness?" Grandpa said, "No, but his record is in you." Within seconds, I was in a vision. The ancient grandfather was lying on the dirt floor of a dark cave. He looked frail, as if he had been starved. Then I was him. Several men, dressed in the rough clothing of centuries earlier, entered the cave and struck me with wooden clubs. Scared and in pain, hands protecting my head, I screamed. The hypnotist distracted me. "Is it you or your grandfather they're hitting?" I said, "Grandfather, but I feel it in my body." She said, "Can you watch what is happening without being a participant?" I knelt at grandfather's side as they beat him. His spirit said, "They're killing me because I know a secret, and they don't want others to know it." His thoughts took me to an island. He said, "This is the Welshland." An old boat with mast and sails floated at a wooden pier in a cove surrounded by trees. We went through the hatch into the bottom of the boat. Kneeling in front of a wooden chest with metal trim, I opened the lid and unrolled yellowed papers. I couldn't read the ancient writings, but I looked at sketches of circles and spirals that interconnected like pathways. He said, "It shows how the moon works." His presence was fading. Back in the cave, I was him again, dying. Still in hypnosis when the vision ended, I said to the oneness, Can I learn more about how the sun, moon, and stars work? In a vision again, I saw the moon. It was in the biofield of oneness, but its shiny energy moved like a pendulum within nature, from full to sliver and back again. Days later, in meditation, a vision took me back in time. I was my ancient grandfather, driving an open wagon on a dirt road between two cornfields. A man sat beside me. As we drove through a cave, men ran out of the darkness and stopped the wagon. The man sitting beside me grabbed me, while the others pulled me from the wagon and threw me into the cave where they had killed him. One morning, as I finished meditation, the ancient grandfather was waiting at my left side, ready to transition. I welcomed him with gratitude and watched him ascend. Universal Spirit took me in a vision to see the sky clock, the sun, moon, and stars that set the times of nature. Within the biofield of oneness, 3 or 4 suns were dark and full of sadness. Each had a moon. In the distance, 1 sun and moon were shining. The sky clock spread out evenly above the top of the biofield of nature, but the energy didn't feel right to me. Like my ancient grandfather's sketch, something seemed to fall across the moon, creating its phases. I said to Universal Spirit, "How does the moon work?" In a biofield session a few days later, the sky clock was my hologram. The sun vibrated with pure power, but the energy of the stars was a network, an expansion of awareness. The central channel of its biofield was clogged with sadness. The sun, moon, and stars had not been able to recharge and feel the full power of the universe since the giant trees had been destroyed. I found a shield over the heart chakra. The sky clock was sheltering itself from feeling greater loss. A ceiling was over the solar plexus, limiting its power. I worked until the shield and ceiling were gone, and the biofield of oneness that held the sky clock glowed with happiness. Again, Universal Spirit took me high above the biofield of nature, above the center of the earth. The sun and moon were far away, and everything else was dark. The sadness of the sky clock filled me. It wanted to be the light it was meant to be. I said again, "How does the moon work?" In a vision, I saw the drawings of my ancient grandfather. Like before, the vibration indicated that something was not right, and the moon was sad. Led by intuition, I tuned the sky clock again, releasing stuck energy at the heart and throat chakras. I tuned all the parts of the universe to Universal Spirit, clearing huge pockets of sadness, grief, and the mindset of lack that had been felt when the entire universe reacted in fight or flight as the trees were cut down and the daily recharging of the universe ended. As a continuous stream of ancestors from many generations transitioned after the session, I soaked up the joy, love, and gratitude of my ancient grandfather, all those in the oneness, all of nature, and Universal Spirit. I felt pressure and palpitations around my heart and third eye chakra all evening, but the next day I glowed with joy. I felt a great abundance of renewed energy fueling all of nature as it filtered through the ley lines and dispersed in the universe. My husband woke up humming, something he didn't do very often. He said, "You must have been tuning yesterday. I could feel energy clearing within me while you worked." A friend said, "Yesterday I was sad all afternoon." I continued tuning myself and the universe every week for an abundance of energy and time. Tunings during a solstice, full moon, and morning rain were best of all. In every session, I felt like I was being guided by an angel. After every session, I was hugged by all the celestial energies and beings in the oneness.